Hi, Linn in Sweden. Welcome to the podcast Voices of Us. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for
Mm.
having me.
Yes, and thank you for
Mm.
participating. So, Lynn, let's take us back to your background and when were you adopted from Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I was born in 1984, and when I was about 14 months old, 1985 in June, I was adopted to Sweden.
Mhm. And what kind of
Yeah,
family did you come to in Sweden?
sorry.
What kind of family did you
Oh,
were you brought up
I came.
in Sweden?
Yeah, I came to. In that time, I was the next oldest one. We are five siblings totally today. I am the next oldest. So when I came to Sweden, I had an older sister who was adopted from Sri Lanka in 1983. So it was me and my sister and my adopted, what do you say, adopted parent.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, great.
yeah.
And a little bit about your upbringing. Were you brought up in a big city, in a village? How was life in Sweden?
I grew up in a small town south of Gothenburg, Kungsbacka. So in that time it was quite a small town, but today it's bigger. But in that time it was quite a safe neighborhood I grew up in. Everything was close, school was close, friends were close. So it was a nice neighborhood to grow up in. Yeah.
Great. And do you
Yeah.
remember when did you start finding your whole adoption story? When did you kind of felt interest in your own story?
Yeah. For me, I always been like a curious person. Like I always been had question about my my birth country and my parents. They always been open for us to feel fine to ask any questions about it and very supportive. Um, but like I said, I have a lot of questions even when I was a child. And I think those questions just grew bigger the older I became. And then later, when you started to have your own children, it became even more important. So I think all my life, back and forth, I've been wondering. Yeah.
And I know from our previous conversation that you actually started the search of your roots and your birth family. So can you take us back to approximately how old were you and how did you start this search?
My search been going on like back and forth, and I tried myself to do some search using the internet, of course. I was typing my birth mother's name on Facebook to just see if I have luck, but that didn't lead me anywhere, unfortunately. So when I think it was 5 years ago, I started to feel like let's give it a last try. Maybe it's not possible for me to find anything because I didn't have so much details in that time about my birth family. So what I did, I was on Facebook and I found someone who was asking if there was someone who needed some help with the searching, finding the roots in Sri Lanka. So I contacted this person here in Sweden actually, and he actually had a lot of help for me. So before that, I managed to find my birth certificate, which I did not have from the beginning. And when I found that, I have so much more information and details about both my parents actually in Sri Lanka, and also found out that I had siblings that were older than me. So then I think it became even more important. Like I really need to try to find my family. So one thing led to another, and the search was like going on for just a few weeks, I think, until I actually managed to find one of my aunties in Sri Lanka.
So then maybe for also for the listeners, how was it possible to find your birth certificate and why wasn't it as a part of your documents in Sweden?
Um, I got in contact with a lady in Sri Lanka through Facebook, And she said she's gonna try to see if she can find out some more details if I send her my documents from the adoption. And since I don't know Sinhala, it was a lot of details there that actually was said in the documents. For example, she said, like, your birth is registered in some office in Sri Lanka. So I'm gonna try to go there, she said. And when I go there, I'm gonna try to see if they can give me your details about like the birth certificate, which was not like a guarantee thing, because sometimes it's not easy if some random person go there and claims your papers. But she did succeed, so she got my birth certificate. And I sent my birth certificate to this person in Sweden, and he sent it further to his team in Sri Lanka. And then the search was starting.
So for this lady to search for your birth certificate, you must have had something in your documents in Sweden that's kind of a lead. Was that adoption papers or what was it?
Yeah, it was in my adoption papers, the documents. It was kind of a stamp, and in that stamp it said the name of the office, like where in Sri Lanka my birth was registered. So that was a good clue that I didn't know that time, but now I understand that mostly of our documents consist that kind of stamp with that name of the office where your birth is registered.
So before we go on with the whole search thing, how was your Swedish family coping with this? That you were so curious, you wanted to search for your family, even also you have another sister from Sri Lanka. So how did they cope with this?
Yeah, for now, today, I mean, we are 5 siblings, and 4 of us are adopted from Sri Lanka. But I am the only one who's been curious to find out my birth family, which is totally fine because we are all different and we want to know different things. I want to know everything, obviously. So my parents been aware of that. So they always like told me like, if there anything we can do to help you, just ask, and we're gonna do our best. But unfortunately, they didn't know so much more than I didn't already knew. So I was open about it, very transparent, like telling them this is what I'm gonna do now, and the next step gonna be this, you know. So they were like curious and always question me, asking me like, how is it going? Do you have found anything more? Like they wanted to know, because this was, I think, at least the most exciting for them to be a part of it as for me.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So what actually in your story so far resonates with me is that the thing about having a loving family in your new country even makes you wonder what happened, why I'm adopted, who is my birth parents, and who maybe I even have siblings. And we do know that Sri Lankan families, they are big. They often live in the same village. So my question to you would also be to kind of be curious, what is it that makes us longing to know about our roots? We had a good upbringing. So do you have any idea of or answers to what motivated you, or why was it such a strong feeling in you?
For me, I think also it's been, of course, about me and my questions and my feelings about all this being adopted, but also for my birth mother. Like, I think it's very difficult to give your child away, no matter what, you know? So for me, it was important also to find her, to let her know that here I am fine. And I never had any harsh feeling for her leaving me. I feel more like she gave me much better life, like opportunities that she could ever be giving me, you know? So I'm grateful to her, like for me, when I came to Sweden, I was quite small, a little bit sick. So we don't know if my health would be getting worse in Sri Lanka. Because when I came to Sweden, I had the possibility to get the right nutrition that my mother could not give me in Sri Lanka. For example, I was 14 months old, and today we are schooling our children or toddlers into kindergarten by that age. I could not even walk myself. I didn't even know how to sit myself because my muscles were so like weak. So for me, my birth mother, she is what, like my hero. Also, my parents in Sweden, they are my heroes. So that's how I want to see it, and that's how I feel it. I feel like it is. So also questioning like, who am I? Because when you're coming to a new family, you're not choosing that. Obviously, you're too small to do that, and it's a part of your like who you are, and who would I be if I would not be in Sweden, for example. So you can take it further and further because there's so many questions. But I think those most important questions for me to find out, like, who am I and who are my parents in Sweden, in Sri Lanka, my family. Yeah.
Really, really makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let us go back to the search for your birth family. So you had this team you had this guy in Sweden. There was a team local in Sri Lanka who could help you. So how did they find your birth parents, or did they find them?
Yeah. They went to that village where it said in my birth certificate, my mom was from. So they went there, and they found one of my aunties because they were starting to go around in this village showing a picture from that time when I was still in Sri Lanka and asking for my birth mother's name. And there was one lady there, and she said, that picture, I know that girl, she's familiar. I think she is the daughter of my sister. So yeah. So back here in Sweden, by that time when they were in this village searching for my mother, I got a photo sent to my phone. This is your auntie. And for me, it was like a random lady, Sri Lankan lady. So I didn't know for sure. But then they said, we know that her mother moved away years ago. We don't know exactly where, but we do know where her brother is. So I have an older brother in Sri Lanka, 5 years older than I am. So they found my brother through that lady who was my auntie. And when they found my brother, he already knew about me because he was 5 years old when I was taken away, given away, sorry. And he also been wondering where I was, like one day he just came home and I was no longer there. And of course, he was very happy to hear about me looking for them. So he later on, when me and my brother was in contact, he told me like, I can take you to our mother because I know where she is. So
Oh, wow, wow. So a brother who didn't know about you but didn't know where you were. So
no.
eventually, would you go back to Sri Lanka and then with your brother find your mother? Or how did that part work?
Yeah, the thing was, by that time the COVID started, so I could not go directly, which I wanted to do. I would just wanted to like, I want to go there now. But because of the COVID, the airport was closing down in Sri Lanka, so I needed to wait. But now I can say that I think it was a good thing because during that time, waiting for the airport to open up, I had some time to like build up a contact with my brother. And also in that time, I started to talk to my birth mother. And my mother in Sri Lanka, she knew some English, which was a help, of course. So we could have some communication through WhatsApp. So we were calling video calls almost every day, sometimes even more than one time every day in the beginning. But it was so nice to just try to talk to them, and they could ask me questions. I asked them questions. So when I finally were able to go there, we already, prepared each other for the meeting. So it was a good help for me, and I also believe it was a good help for them as well.
I understand. So,
Yeah.
the big question is always, why were we given away for adoption? Did you have that
Yeah,
conversation with your mom?
I had, and I also found out from her side, because you already know there is always two sides of a story. But her story, it goes like this. My birth father, but he was not the best. He was drinking a lot, kind of alcoholic. He did not work. My mom was the one working, taking care of us children. And I think she went through a lot. So she decided to leave our father. But once you're leaving your man and there are children involved, automatically the children belongs to the father. So that's why she took me and my older sister. I forgot to tell you that, but I have an older sister as well, and she's between the age me and my brother. So she decided to take me and my older sister to give us away for adoption, and left our brother with our father. So the reason she gave me and my sister away, I think because we're girls. We were girls. And we were still younger. Our brother were, like I said, 5 years older than I was. So maybe it was more difficult for her to give him away. But today, luckily, my brother, he is like strong. He has a good job, and he has his family, good house. So I think his life at the end became better, even if it was hard for him growing up there with the father who was not the best.
Wow. So just
Yeah.
to wrap it up, there was a big brother, a middle sister, and a smaller sister that is you. So the two
Yeah.
girls, did both of you went for adoption? You and your sister?
Yeah. Yeah. She took us at the same time to the for the adoption. And I tried to ask her, like, where did my sister end up? But she don't know. So I'm still trying to find her. Maybe she's in Sweden or maybe some other country, but she was adopted. Yes.
And we know, and you know for sure that she was adopted outside Sri Lanka.
That I don't know for sure. But that was like, I was assuming that because I was. We were taking there for adoption in the same time.
Mm. Mm.
And
So
I
that,
also know that my birth mother were the one handing me over to my Swedish mom, who was there in Sri Lanka to bring me home to Sweden, because we have photo proceed. But my sister, I think there was another lady, perhaps, who handed her over to her family. Yeah.
So that is also a big shout out that if there's someone around the world that is watching this, or
Yeah.
something like knowing something, or could be interested in just finding out, could you be sisters, then we definitely want them to say something in the
Yes,
yes.
definitely. Yeah.
So then we go back to you meet your Corona is finished. You can are able to go back to Sri Lanka, and then you meet
Mm,
your birth mom, right?
I did. And even if we had already been talking a lot through Facebook and WhatsApp, the first meeting is always going to be the first meeting. So I was so nervous. I think I hardly slept that night in the hotel. So it was a long ride in the car, reaching the village where she was living in. And then finally, I was sitting in the car. We were driving outside her house, and she was already outside her house in the garden, standing there waiting for me. And she was like looking, trying to see me in the car. And I was so nervous. So I just like a little bit went down because I didn't know where to look, you know? And then I went out from the car, and then suddenly I looked around. Where is she? She just gone. She went into the house. So maybe she also get nervous somehow. But then she came later. She came out, and then I just walked against her, and there was this first hug after like 36 years. So it was very mixed feelings, a lot of mixed feelings. Yeah.
Of course, and it is very it must also be very strong feelings like meeting a person and a family that you actually been searching for such a long time, and even
Mm.
before the search, you've been thinking about who is my mother, who is my father, and so on. So did you meet also your father?
I did. I managed to find out where he was when I was in Sri Lanka meeting my mother. I was still in contact with some man in Sri Lanka who said he gonna try to see if he can locate my father. So when actually I was sitting in my brother's house, I just got a photo sent to my WhatsApp. This is your father. And I showed the picture to my brother. This is our father, right? And my brother was just looking at the picture. He was just silent for a few seconds. And then he just, yeah. Because before that, he told me that our father was not alive anymore. Even my mom said that. But now I realized they were saying that because they didn't want me to meet him because he was not the best for them or even for me. But I don't remember that because I was so small when I was still in Sri Lanka. So I heard a lot of stories about my father being not like the best father or the best man, you know. But still, it was important to meet him. And I tried to explain that to my brother, like if I can come to Sri Lanka all the way from Sweden to see you, then of course I can go and see my father when I'm here. They were not agree with me at the beginning, but then later they're like, okay, they're accepting it. Like, okay, I go with you, he said, my brother, and we're gonna meet our father. And that meeting with our father, even for my brother, haven't met him for so many years because he decided to just cut everything with our father. So that was like really huge of my brother to go there, support me, even if it was difficult for him. So that meeting with my father, it was weird, if you can call it like that. It didn't felt natural. It didn't felt, it felt a little bit like, what am I doing here? But I'm glad that I did see him. But if you can compare the meetings with my mother and my father, my meeting with my mother were like, it was so nice in every way.
Very good. So you did also get the opportunity to meet your dad. There's one question I have, because as you know, I moved back to Sri Lanka and I lived here for a couple of years, and I live in a village. So a lot of the places in Sri Lanka is actually villages. And
Yeah.
it's very, very uncommon that a woman can support herself. So when your mom chose to divorce your father, and even she let go of you girls, how did she manage to live life?
To be honest, right after when she were giving me and my sister away, I'm not sure because she said she was working, but it was like selling fruit, stuff like that. But then I know she told me later she actually met a guy, a man from Switzerland. So she was married to him. She married him. And in 2017, he passed away because they were living in Sri Lanka. They built a house there. But in 2017, he passed away. And then later, she was living on his, what do you call it? I don't know the name now in English. Pension.
It's
Uh,
pension.
pension,
So
yes,
he had a
exactly.
pension that
Yeah,
she could live
yeah,
on. Ah, okay. So
that's
yeah.
how. Yeah, yeah,
But you never met him, obviously, because this is before you, yeah. And just
yeah.
briefly, what happened to your dad, to your Sri Lankan father? Does he still live?
He's still alive. Yes, he's still alive, as far as I know. But he lives like up in the mountains. Not sure where exactly, but he was having mm, worse life than my mom. So
And
I'm not so, yeah.
did your mother get any children after you were the youngest of this
Yeah,
uh, couple, or
yeah.
with your father?
It
But yeah.
exactly. It's a funny story because I think it's a little bit funny because my mom, she was very like, no, I have no more children. You are the youngest. Because when I was started to search for my sister, my older sister, try to see if she was maybe in Sweden or some other country. I was on Facebook in those different groups and posted like questioning if someone recognized this, contact me because I'm searching for my older sister. There was one girl also adopted from Sri Lanka. She telling me like, I met your birth mother when I was in Sri Lanka because her name showed up in my documents. But we did a DNA test and she's not my mother. But I know who your sister might be. And I think that's weird. So I started to have contact with this girl. And she said that, like, just the same for me, I grew up in a family with more siblings from Sri Lanka. She had adopted a sister from Sri Lanka as well, a younger sister. And I believe they were told from the beginning that they were birth sisters. So they took a DNA test, those two sisters, and it turned out they're not sisters at all. But my younger sister, this girl, the younger sister, she took a DNA test with my birth mother. And it turns out that she is the daughter of my mother as well. So I am half sister to this girl.
But and where does she live, this younger sister?
He was adopted to the Netherlands.
Wow. Okay, so maybe
Yeah.
just to wrap it up.
Yeah,
There's a big brother, there's a little sister, which is your big sister, and she's for now unknown, and you're looking for her. Then we have you were adopted to Sweden, and then your birth mother had a younger sister with another man that is not your father.
Yeah.
And she's in the Netherlands. You found her?
Yeah.
Did you meet her?
I did, because we started to have contact. In the beginning, she was not so interested, but then later she's like, okay, let's talk. We see what's gonna happen. And then just like that, she's saying like, oh, I'm gonna book a flight. I'm coming to see you like during the summer. So I think it's 2 years from now. She came here with her son, stayed here in Sweden for 1 week. And we have still contact. So yeah.
And did your brother in Sri Lanka meet her?
No, he didn't. He wants to meet her. Far as I know, my sister is not planning any Sri Lanka trip now, but maybe one day. And I'm not sure if they are in contact the same as me with my brother, because I don't want to force her to do that. I think it's very important that you have to feel like you want to do it yourself and you're doing it for your own self, not for anyone else. But for me, I think always been like an open-minded person. Like I think it's interesting to have contact with my brother because it feels like I'm still a little bit more closer to Sri Lanka somehow, even if I'm in Sweden. And after being in Sri Lanka, because when I went to Sri Lanka to meet my birth family, it was actually my first time back in Sri Lanka since I was 11 years old. So this is like second time I went to Sri Lanka during my whole life. So only going to Sri Lanka was a big step for me. It was a big experience. It's just like, wow, I'm here again, but as an adult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So time is almost up. I have one question because I feel your happiness and your story being reconnected, and even you've been surprised, of course, with all you have a smaller sister and so on. But if we took it on a more like a different note, more serious note, we are so many adoptees that does not know our story. So in that point of view, your story also shows a lot of unknown things, which is like pretty seriously because we are humans. We were of course adopted as a child, and we grow up and we have our own opinion and possibilities to search, but still like so that children in a family are separated in the way that your family was is actually also very sad. Even I
It
follow
is.
your happiness, but if you
Yeah.
set it in another perspective, so do you have any like comments on that?
I mean, I agree totally with everything you're saying because I also feel like when I come back from Sri Lanka, when I came back from Sri Lanka, it was very difficult for me to just balance everything. It felt like I was standing with one foot here, but in the same time, another foot was left in Sri Lanka. And when I came to Sri Lanka to meet my family, I saw my mother and my brother. We were spending a lot of time together. My brother's children already knew about me, which was completely surprise for me, but so overwhelming. So it felt like I've been missing out a life in Sri Lanka, even if I had a good life here. And
I understand.
it's a sad, when you're thinking about it like that, it's kind of sad. But also, like you're saying, like I'm happy because I grew up in a like good family here. I cannot complain about anything. But it's like part of who you are. If you are not adopted, you already know. You know your like where your blood comes from. You know you can compare yourself to someone. That was first time I could actually see myself completely in my brother's eyes. I've seen my own eyes. So
Wow,
yeah.
yeah, good
Mm.
reflection, good reflection. So also, then besides from being adoptee, I also know you are a mother, you also a teacher. You also do some singing. And I know I
I
heard some
do.
of your songs and it's so, so beautiful. Wow. And you allowed us to use a little bit of your music, but it's a specific song. So maybe you can tell before we say goodbye, what is
Yes.
the song about?
The song is about like I'm a songwriter as well. When I was still searching for my birth family, I was writing a lot because I needed to do something with my feelings and my thoughts. So I wrote a song which is about finding my birth family. Like I want to know where they are. It doesn't matter who they are. I just want to find them, you know? So
Oh,
that song,
that's great.
yeah.
That's great. And that song we will play in the end of our podcast when we finish in a minute. I also want to say I appreciate you participating in this podcast. And very briefly, before we close down and say goodbye, do you have anything like for people watching this podcast? Do you have any good advice or any thoughts? It has to be very short, but yeah.
Yeah, if you are just like me, curious, wanted to find out something about your birth family, I think just take the step. And there's a lot of people like me. You can always ask. It's always good to have someone with you when you go through this because it's a up and down with emotions. So make sure you are also in a good place in your life. Like I think it's a good way of handling. Like you have strong mentality and left because it's like you don't know how to react or what to expect.
Makes totally sense. Really,
Yeah.
really. So Lynn, thank you here from Sri Lanka. And
Thank you.
in a short second, we will hear your voice and also hear your song. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.